you have been predicting the U.S. presidential elections for more than for around 40 years or so. So, what's your prediction this time? Are you making a prediction in this Trump versus Harris competition?
Yes. My system, the 13 keys to the White House, pays no attention to the pundits who have no scientific basis for their opinions. It doesn't follow the horse race polls, which are snapshots, not predictions. It's based upon the strength and performance of the White House party. In other words, it's governing, not campaigning, that counts. And the way it works, if 6 of my 13 keys count against the White House party, they're predicted losers. Fewer than 6, they're predicted winners. Here's the tally. The White House party loses key 1, the mandate key, because they lost U.S. House seats in 2022. They lost key number 3, the incumbency key, because sitting president's not running. They lose key number 12, the incumbent charisma key, because what you may think of Harris, she's only been a candidate for a little while. She's not reached the status of a Franklin Roosevelt, and she loses key number 11, the foreign policy failure key, because the Middle East is a disaster, a humanitarian crisis with no good end in sight. That's 4 keys down, 2 keys short of what will be needed to predict Donald Trump returning to the White House and Harris losing. So the keys predict we're going to have a new path-breaking president, our first woman president, and the first president of mixed Asian and African descent, kind of foreshadowing where America's going. We're rapidly becoming a majority-minority country. Old white guys like me are on the decline.
So, as you are making this prediction, you just pointed out the factors where the incumbent party is losing. So, what are the factors that you think where the Democrats are ahead, which are acting as the key factors for making them win?
Well, as I said, they're only losing 4. That means they're winning 9 keys. The contest key, because the Democrats united around Harris. The third party key, because the campaign of RFK Jr. has fizzled. The short-term economic key, because there's no recession in the election year. The long-term economic key, because real per capita growth under the Biden term has vastly exceeded the average of the previous 2 terms. They win the policy change key, because policies under Biden are fundamentally different from those under Trump. They win the social unrest key, because the earlier sporadic demonstrations have fizzled away. They win the scandal key. Republicans have been trying for 4 years to pin a scandal on Biden and have come up empty. Their smoking gun witness, Mr. Smirnoff, turns out to have been arrested by the FBI for lying about Biden and propagating Russian propaganda. And it doesn't matter under the definition of this key whether it's a family member, whether it's the Biden's brother or son or anything else. They win the foreign policy success key because it was Biden and Biden alone who put together the coalition of the West that stopped Putin from conquering Ukraine, as many predicted, and moving on to threatening America's NATO allies and undermining America's national security. They win the challenger charisma key because whatever you may think of Trump as a showman, he doesn't fit the definition of the key, which is a once-in-a-generation, across-the-board inspirational candidate. He only appeals to a narrow base. In 4 years as president, his approval rating was just 41%, right at the bottom, historically, of presidents. And in 2 consecutive elections, he lost the vote of the people by a combined 10 million votes. So that's why there are 9 keys in favor of the Democrats.
My next question is just building on that. It's also a fact that although there are 50 states in the United States, the main election is decided in the key swing states, which are the big states, whether it's the Georgia, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and all those key swing states. So, what are the key factors that you think will play the role in these key swing states where both the candidates are trying their best?
The keys don't change. You know, the October surprise is the biggest myth in American history. I've predicted all my elections, 10 elections. This is my 11th, well before any October surprise. We had the biggest October surprise ever in 2016 when Donald Trump was recorded on tape as bragging about sexually assaulting women. A lot of pundits were saying he's finished, he's done. I never changed my prediction of a Trump win, which proved to be correct. And you can imagine predicting a Trump win did not make me very popular in 90% plus Democratic Washington, D.C., where I teach at American University.
Yeah. So the one more thing about that Donald Trump win, the one significant thing was Trump though had more electoral college, but the popular vote in that thing Harris had outweighed Trump. So do you think this time anything like that can happen? Can the popular vote be popular vote, or the electoral college can be different this time as well?
I'm just calling winners and losers. I haven't called the popular vote in many years because my integral parameters in my system tabulate who's going to win and who's going to lose. So I'm just predicting Harris to win.
Okay. So the ongoing wars in Ukraine and Middle East, the foreign policy front, because Donald Trump has been banking his campaign on the fact that America has lost the prestige that it used to have, that had he been in office, the conflicts wouldn't have happened, and he has vowed that he will stop both these conflicts within days of taking over the White House. So how much role do you think the public perception is regarding these two conflicts?
I don't pay any attention to the talking points of the candidates, the debates, speeches, ads, fundraising, dirty tricks. I deliberately delivered my prediction on September 5th, before the Harris-Trump debate, which all the pundits were saying was going to turn this election. My prediction is based on the big picture. And in fact, America's standing around the world is vastly better in terms of how Americans perceive the United States than it was during the Trump administration, when he had basically trashed our allies, and our allies were very worried about a second Trump administration. But that doesn't factor in. There are always talking points on both sides.
The two assassination attempts on Donald Trump, do you think they are going to play a role in tilting something in his favor?
Yeah, again, things happen during campaigns. As I said, the biggest surprise was the Access Hollywood tape. The keys do not change given the day-to-day events of the campaign, no matter what they may be. Now, that said, I'm not psychic Gene Dixon with a crystal ball. I'm not Speaker Mike Johnson, who thinks the Almighty speaks to him. My system is based on history. It's very robust. Developmentally, it goes all the way back to 1860, when we had no planes, no automobiles, no radio, no television. We were an agricultural economy. Women didn't vote. African Americans were enslaved. So it's a very robust system, enduring enormous changes in our society, our economy, our demography, and our politics. That said, is it possible something so cataclysmic and so unprecedented could break the pattern of history? Of course. But of course the issue is you can never know that beforehand, only afterwards. That's why I don't listen to all of those critics who say, oh, this election is different. It's an assassination attempt. Trump has 34 felony counts. You know, every year critics tell me that. In 2008, critics said, you got to change your keys. You can't predict Obama. He's an African American. Never had that before. America's not ready for an African American. We have Hillary Clinton, a woman. Never had that before. We have the Access Hollywood tape. Never had that before. You don't change your prediction on the fly.
So my last question is, what would be the role of Indian American community in the United States, keeping in mind Kamala Harris also has Indian origin, Indian roots. So how much a role do you think the Indian American community will be playing in these elections? And building on to this, that which of the two candidates, how will be their record with ties with India if they take over the White House?
Are you asking me if the keys could predict Indian politics?
No. Basically, I want to ask that what would be the policy of the two presidents regarding India, regarding U.S. relationship with India.
Oh, I'm not an expert on U.S. relations with India. I can't answer that question.
Okay. And the role of Indian Americans in this election as voters, Indian American voters?
I don't break down into individual voters. But I can say, in terms of foreign policy, the two couldn't be different. Trump is an America First president or candidate, either one. He believes in turning inward. He's against collective security with our allies.
Yeah.
Many times he's trashed our NATO alliance, and our NATO allies are very worried about a Trump presidency. Harris is your typical president who believes in collective security, who believes in working with our allies and not trying to go it alone.
That's a prediction. You are sticking with your prediction of Harris winning this elections and US getting its first female president.
I don't change my predictions. My prediction still stands of a Harris win.
Okay. Thank you so much, sir, for your time. And
My pleasure. Take care.
yeah,
Send me a link.
yeah,
Bye-bye.
definitely, sir.